All right, good afternoon, everybody. I think it's a very interesting afternoon that we have planned for you. The fact that we've got Hari back on campus is
My
because
pleasure.
because he wants to constantly interact with the new generation of people. Of course, he gets a lot of new generation people joining his organization as well, but there are 6,000 of them, right? So it's much easier to get to know people at the college level. And we're very fortunate that this is the second time that he's on campus for us. For me, as the head of the institution, it's a special privilege to welcome you again on behalf of all the students and the staff and faculty members of the college. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to run the guys on that side. You're a little disadvantaged, right? Because there's a dais in between here, the podium is in between. But I would like you to stay alert and awake and ask questions whenever the opportunity arises. So as the compares mentioned just now, what Hari is going to talk about broadly is called life hacks, right? You all understand what hacks are, right? Hacks are shortcuts and you all love shortcuts, I know, right? We struggle with your penchant for shortcuts, but today he's going to devote the next 45 minutes to 60 minutes only on life hacks. So the scope of his conversation today with us is going to be a lot of personal learnings that he's had from the time he joined industry, probably even before that, and how he has navigated his journey to reach where he is now, right? As the top honcho, one of the top honchos at a massive organization like Publicis, right? Those of us who might have done a little bit of research will understand or know that Publicis is a huge organization and a big name in the advertising and media field, right? All of y'all are quite aware of that. So what I'm going to do is we're going to have a chit chat, okay? And from time to time we will pause, and I would, welcome questions directed to him only, not to me, okay? Only him. Anything specific related to the preceding part of that, or any other important thing that you'd like to know about in terms of navigating corporate life, navigating professional life. Okay, because right now you're in year one. You will be by next in a couple of months more. You'll be reaching out into the corporate world for your summer internships, coming back, and then preparing for the actual, real, lifelong journey. Okay, so this might be a great opportunity for you to move away from academic stuff and get to know real stuff which you're going to find useful in the corporate world. I'm not saying academic is not real. It is. Okay. All right. So let me begin by asking or setting up a context question first. Okay. So Hari, I want to ask you, you've got 3 decades and more of WorkX, right? Could you take us through what made you choose this line and what were the preceding events that happened in your life which sort of propelled you in this direction? Was it a matter of choice? Was it accident that you moved into media and not entertainment, but media and advertising and so on and so forth? So let's start off with that question, and then we will have some, related areas that we'll talk about. So please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Thank you, Jones. I don't want to call you Dr.
Sure.
Suddenly
okay.
ages you. But yeah, first of all, I'm very glad to come back to Great Lakes. Last time when I came here, it was the same auditorium. I think there was another place where it was being live streamed. I loved the energy of the whole group. There were a lot of Q&As, and I think we were talking about AI as something being on the horizon and how to excel at that. I think it was part of your larger AI festival, right? So I hope it all went out well. And then, once I experienced your institute, I felt that I should come back again for 2 reasons. One is that I loved that entire vibe and the energy. And the second is it's very close to my home. So, I can always, unless it's a Bombay or a Bangalore, which I do too, I do travel to campuses outside of the city, but it's far more simpler. Correct. But of course, it's not just about casually walking in. Jones and I and Amanpreet, we've been discussing these topics for your benefit, because I must tell you the amount of care and concern they have for curating topics and curating the people to come and deliver those topics to you is very, very high. So I must compliment them. It's not tokenism. It's absolutely tailored to you guys. So I said, yeah, and I can see that energy when somebody does it with so much of authenticity. I feel, yeah, and I have that, and I should come back. And anyway, I enjoy talking to young people because it keeps me young, and it also gives me a lot of tips about you. If I stop learning about you guys, then I'll probably lose my main job also, because it's all about connecting with young people.
Yeah, it's just a quick word here. Let me also assure you that when Hari agreed to talk or have this session, his one condition was that we are going to meet ahead of the actual event and chalk out what we're going to talk about, because we want to make it really. So I want to compliment you for taking that time out, and Aman and I and you, and
For the whole prep, yeah, thank you
for
for
the
that.
preparation. So what we're trying to say here is that this is not a random event. We have planned this out. Hari's put in a lot of time thinking about it. In fact, he sent me a long list of 16 questions topics that he wants to talk about. Of course, time doesn't allow it. So we'll merge and scrounge, and we will get around through the session. So thanks a lot. Yeah.
Thanks. So coming back to the experience that I have had professionally in the last 3 decades, and to go back to your question about what was the backstory of walking into a career like advertising.
Right.
It's a very interesting backstory. So to many people today, do you guys know how many reels are uploaded on Instagram every month? Monthly, 47 million. Okay, that's the average number of reels that are uploaded, and therefore you guys are seeing a lot of content every day. Like if I ask you, कल क्या reel देखी, आपको याद नहीं होगी, because you at every point of time, and I think every minute you're going through, every hour you're going through 200 reels, right? But I belong to a generation when we had only one screen at home, and that one screen at home had 1 hour of programming in the evening, and that's the only 1 hour that you watch. So it's probably you can't even imagine those days, because it was a very different time, and therefore the content we saw was very little but very high quality, and it attracted us a lot. And when we used to watch all of that, we used to say, hey, who makes this? Who makes these movies? Who makes these TV serials? Actually, you should go back to your memes today. There are lots of memes on our 1990s Ramayana and all that. You must have seen, right? Now, those are the main programs that we used to watch. So just imagine all our programs have been turned into memes for you. But regardless of what the programs were coming on TV, there were these ads which used to come, which were shorter in duration, right? In our times, the ads were 30 seconds, 60 seconds in duration. And those were really attractive. And those had celebs in them, those had stars in them, they had great jokes, they had great stories. And that really attracted us when we were still in school and college. And somewhere I felt enamored. I said, I want to be part of that. I had a broad dream. I had absolutely no idea of how to get into that. But all I knew was, ye karna hai, isme ghusna hai. This looks attractive. This looks like something that I would like to do in life. This looks like a world that I want to live in. Okay, it was like a top view of a village, or a you looked at something from the top view of a map and said, this place looks nice and colorful, I want to be there. But I had no understanding of how do you get there, right? So it was typically like that. And when we used to watch these ads on TV or hear them on radio, and some of them used to be incredibly funny, and next day we used to discuss that. I know you will find it damn funny. How many ads do you discuss with people today? Nothing. You don't even discuss movies with people. सबने अपना वेब सीरीज देखा, चुप हो गए, किसी ने मीम बनाया, किसी ने शेयर किया, बस खत्म बात. But in our days, these were pieces of topics of discussion actually, because they were so rare and they were so interesting that we said, hey, we want to discuss this, we want to talk about it. So it became an area of interest. And soon I realized, by the time I was in second or third year of college, that there is something called marketing. ऐसी कोई चीज़ होती है, and marketing वाले create brands, and then there are these places called ad agencies where they make ads, right? And we said, okay, that's my interest that got me into exploring and discovering the topic, and said, probably I want to be there. Probably I want to do that. And then towards the end of my college years, I kind of started visiting, because I grew up in Delhi, so Delhi had a lot of these ad agencies. So I used to just go pick up the telephone directory, go there and watch, try to get, today you have LinkedIn, you can connect with people, you can connect with the CEO of Google also if you want, if you think he's the one accepting your invite. But it is easy today to access people, right? But in our days, there was always one guard and then one receptionist, and then there is a secretary, and there is no way you won't even know who's the person in that office. So after doing a lot of delayering, connecting with friends whose brothers and sisters and uncles worked in these places, that's how I kind of landed up in this. So it started with a very deep personal interest in a subject, and figuring out that that subject has a place in the world, that it pays you, that it can be a career, and then discovering how to get into that career was how I made that start.
No, absolutely, fascinating, fascinating. I think a lot of people sitting in the room here may still be not decided what to do with, what career to really get into, because there's a problem of plenty, so many different career options to choose from. Our days it was different. I mean, we then don't need to go repeating it, but it was very different, limited number of options. So you were slightly more clear about what you wanted to do. We understand that you all have big problems in deciding what careers to chase, because you're talking about the next 30 years of your life, right? But which brings me to the next question, which is, Hari, you've had a background in economics, right? And then you took off in the advertising field. Did you feel that there was a disconnect between the two? Because a lot of students also feel confused. If I go in this one direction, or if I do a specialization in this one area, are the doors closed for me in other areas? So would you like to answer that existential question for students?
Very good question, existential question. And it's a very controversial question in my family also. Because I do write the fact that I did economics in the university, but the truth is I just went to college. And therefore, the fact that it was economics honors was just incidental. Because when we used to go to, it was just a given that you would go to college after school, okay? Because in India, college is a subsidized education, right? It's not like abroad that you have to spend your father's savings and then go to college. India and most third world countries ensure that a certain amount of population is kept away from unemployment for some time. So they let you go to college. College education is that. This is my era. When options were very, very limited, the world was still evolving. And therefore, we were so ignorant that all we thought was, we'll get out of school and do a BCom or a BSc or something, and we'll do something, Because I came from that era where there was absolutely no connection between what you did in college and what you finally ended up doing in life, right? Sab apna chance le rahe the. Like in our college, there were people who were very clear. We'll do economics, but we'll give civil services. But all of them were not planning to go to planning commission. Some of them would say go to forest services or police services. So economics ka kya rehna dena usse?
Correct.
Right? So I think broadly, to answer your question, there's absolutely no connect. Of course, there is a little bit of connect. When you work in marketing, when you work in brands, when you talk to people about a life cycle of a certain product and consumer behavior, then a little bit of economics comes there, but it's never, the Keynes model or the Marx's model that kind of gets applied on an everyday basis. So to be honest, it was looking London, talking Tokyo. It's no connection between what I studied and what I did, and I think 99% of my peers were that only, right? But I must tell you another thing, which is that, and this is the first hack that I'm going to talk about. What is a hack? I first want to ask you, does anyone want to guess an answer? What do you mean by a hack? Kuch bhi answer ho sakta hai. You can be wrong also, I'm not going to shame you. But tell me, what do you think is a hack? Superb answer. Great. That's a hack. Absolutely. Hack is a shortcut. An easier way. Hack technically also means, so it is a shortcut, it is a quicker way, it's an easier way. But it's also important to know that a hack is, you actually break open the subject and see it, you hack it, right? That's the real word. You break it open and you see andar kya chal raha hai, to understand the whole thing better. And one of the things I've understood over the years is that at your age, you will think, like how Jones just said, that, oh, I'm going to do something and I'm going to do that for the rest of the 30 years of my life. That's not true. The hack is to know that. Because you will do something for the next 5 years, then something else for the next 10 years, and then something else for the next 10 years. True. So the trick is to understand that. The moment you say that I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, that's a false notion. It will never be the case. Talk to anybody. Okay, we still come from a notion that, oh, my dad was a banker and he was a banker for 32 years and he retired from there and he got a clock. You know, that world has changed. What you will now do today is become probably, you will work in an EV company for 5 years. Then you will say, oh, I like this part of the world. Therefore, I'll work in, say, maybe marketing. And then you will say, no, I like human behavior. I'll then work in some design thinking company. So the truth is that when you step out of your college, I can assure you that your careers are going to be split into, say, periods of 5 years, 10 years, 7 years. And you will do, in your lifetime, everyone of this generation is going to be doing at least 4 or 5 different jobs. You will not die doing the job that you will join. That I can assure you. And that's happened to me as well. Because even though I didn't want to change, but the industry in which I am working, that changed. Right? And the idea is to keep changing with that. So if you think that when I joined the industry, it was all about, ads used to be only in the newspapers. Have you seen a newspaper, guys? Okay. How many of you read a newspaper? Quite a bit, actually. I tell all my media friends that, तुम लोग पेपर में काम करते हो, कोई पढ़ता नहीं है, बच्चे पेपर नहीं पढ़ते. You guys are proving me wrong. But you know a newspaper, and 80% of advertising used to come only in newspapers. Only 20% was in TV. Then slowly, over my 30-year period, the whole spend started shifting to TV. So what did I do? Initially, I used to be sitting in our studio making paper ads for newspaper. Then later on, I was, say, 10, 15 years down the line, I was focusing on how to make TVCs, right? Being part of huge film productions. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly, it all changed. Now, where does most of the money get spent? On digital, right? Programmatic, then social. So in my lifetime, I have seen one industry change, and I can say that I have worked 5 different jobs in 30 years by being in the same industry, because that industry has changed. It's like I tell you that if you had a car driver at home, how many of you have a driver at home? And have they been there for more than 10 years? 5 years? 5 years, okay. So next year you buy an EV. He has to learn how to drive an EV, right? So it's the same thing. So you may choose to do something, but the ground in which you do it will completely change. Then you find yourself whether you want to change with it or not. So that's how I have actually seen the whole system change, and how every time you kind of find hacks to be in it and succeed in it. That's the whole answer.
Absolutely, great. In addition to hacks being all about speed, doing things faster or easier, it's also about doing things more efficiently, right? So that's another benefit of being a hack expert, right? Coming back to this, just to wrap up that part of the conversation, students really worry about, okay, if I don't get the best job or my dream job when I'm getting out of campus, that's the end of my life, right? It is not. It is absolutely not, right? It is just one step in a long journey, right? And he's broken it down based on his experience of 5-year periods, right? I might even take the risk of saying that it might be 3-year periods now, because things are changing so rapidly.
It could be shorter, yes.
It could be shorter, yeah?
Yes.
And you'll be doing multiple skills-related jobs, knowledge-related jobs. So what does it call for, basically? Mental agility, I think, right? The openness of your mind. I think that's what the summary of his the last 2-3 minutes of the conversation was keep an open mind, be agile, because you're not going to be stuck with one job for your life, right? Irrespective of your specializations. You may be an analytics specialist or a marketing specialist, but within that you will be doing multiple trips.
Shifting your industries. Yeah.
Right. Okay. The other important thing that we wanted to talk about, and there's been a lot of buzz about it, probably negative buzz, is the very controversial topic of work-life balance.
I think everybody must work 70 hours a week.
There you go.
Who said that? See, he's such a famous man. I want to be like him.
So, Hari, what do you think? How much of that is real and how much of that is marketing?
Okay. First of all, I want to hear from the audience. So I know what everyone feels about work-life balance, okay? But I want to ask a very simple question. How many of you here watch Shark Tank? That's quite a bit. Regularly? You guys watch Shark Tank regularly? Okay. And if you're watching it regularly, then you're interested in the topics of startups, right? Right. And how many of you here want to become entrepreneurs in the next 5 years? Maybe you won't start being an entrepreneur, but over a period of time. Quite a bit? Okay, that's a good number. So the number of people who said yes to Shark Tank was higher than the number of people who said they want to become entrepreneurs, right? Let me put it this way. What Narayan Murthy said, how it got delivered, how he is as a person, and his wife is as a person, and his son-in-law is as a person, there is a lot of background to it. So we'll keep Narayan Murthy out of it. Because if you keep that topic, then I'll also go against him, okay? Then there are other factors that come into it. But let's come to this whole concept of work-life balance, right? To me, if you're watching Shark Tank, and if you have the aspiration to become an entrepreneur, right? Then you will not even question this concept of work. You will not even talk about work-life balance. You know, when those 5 guys are sitting there and valuing your company and immediately writing a check of 1 crore for 10% of your company, do you think they'll write it to an employee who's going to PVR on a Saturday morning to watch a movie and then doing reels all day, and then on Sunday evening tired of all the reels and saying kal subah office jana padega, can I do work from home? Do you think, you tell me, and there is nothing wrong with it, that life is also a very good life, but what is the aspirational life? Do you think entrepreneurs who are cracking it, who are getting investments, who are making it big in their lives, do you think they ever talk about work-life balance? They won't. So clearly, work-life balance is a very employee mentality conversation, right? Why is it an employee mentality conversation? Because someone has told you that work is work and life is life, right? I don't want to sound like Sadhguru here, but I'll take you back to the beginning of offices and structured working. Who began the concept of offices in this country? Can you tell me? Huh? Who? British who? There is a specific company, the East India Company. So the concept of East India Company, of offices, going to office and working, is a very East India Company concept. If you actually go to some really old shops in Old Delhi, Old Indore, or any small town in India, आप देखोगे दुकानें नीचे लगी होती हैं, ऊपर घर होते हैं लोगों के, right? क्यों होते हैं ऐसे? क्योंकि ट्रेडिशनली वी आर एन ऑक्यूपेशनल सोसाइटी, आपकी फैमिली आपके साथ ही रहती है, आप घर से ही काम करते हो. वी आर अ वर्क फ्रॉम होम सोसाइटी, right? Work from home and work from office was never a distinct part of our lives. Like I keep going to a place called Tehri in Uttarakhand, and on the way there's a beautiful old city called Narendra Nagar, and they've preserved the whole old market. It's very clean, unlike most Indian cities and towns. And those people take great pride. They haven't even changed the shutters of those shops for the last 300, 400 years. They're wooden shutters. They're painted in different colors. It's a clean market. Niche market hai, upar ghar hai. And every time I see that place, I say, wow. And you know, it's such an old concept of how people have intertwined understand this word intertwined. What is intertwined? How a plant goes around a tree. Work and life are intertwined, right? Your identity comes from work, because that's what you do, that's what you give to the world. Your identity doesn't come from your holiday, that everybody does. So I think we should understand it a little more deeply. And again, this is a hack. A hack is nothing but understanding a system better. That if you say my life is a mix of everything, it's okay. That by no means am I saying work 70 hours, right? Because when I have worked, my bosses used to say, office में बैठे बैठे तुम्हें consumer के बारे में क्या पता लगेगा, जाओ market घूम के आओ. I said, wow, I'm getting paid to go to a market and walk around, watch people. People watching is a very big interest of mine, right? I don't know how many of you just sit randomly and watch people. People watching is one of the most pleasurable experiences of life, right? You can sit and watch and say, you can do a backstory of a person, right? It may not even be true. You can make assumptions of what a certain person would be, etc. So in our business, we've done that. We've understood consumer behavior, how they bought things, why they are buying certain things, how they are parking their motorcycles and scooters. So the trick is to find things in your life that you like doing and you fit your work into that, right? According to me, it's an intertwined thing. It is not a balance. The balance always assumes that आपका right side or left side balance होना चाहिए. There is no right side, left side. It is the same side. So that is my perspective on work life. And we will slowly segue into this topic. If you choose a life and if you choose a certain kind of work which you love doing, right, then it becomes your life and then work becomes a part of it. Rather than saying a work which is not part of my life and I will continue fighting it for the rest of my life and always think that life is not work. So one has to understand these words, deconstruct them, really understand what it does to you at a psychological level, and then address it. And that is what is a hack. Hack is always going behind the system and understanding the system. आपको कोई कुछ बोला जा रहा है, वो क्यों बोल रहे हैं? You need to understand that. Okay? So that is really my view. To me, life should be full of fun. Life should be full of leisure. Life should be full of relaxation. But within that, if you can bring in work, I think that's the way to live life.
Yeah, I think that's why the word balance is used, right? The work and the life, separate two parts, bring them together and make
a union of them.
Make a union out of them, which you love, which you like, right? So that's one thing.
Very soon, I'm going to talk to those two boys there who have, seem to be wanting to asking me a question.
Oh, is it?
So I'm going to come to them. Okay? Yeah, we'll give them the next question. Okay?
All right, great. Okay, I hope they're ready for a question, right? Okay, Hari, one of the things that is very interesting in your resume is the number of global brands that you worked for, right? And you've seen them grow. You've helped them to capture new markets, create new images in the mind of the consumer. So can you just tell us the key hacks from that journey of yours, which would be applicable to our students as they navigate the journey of personal brand building, right?
Okay. Yeah. So the first thing is, you always have to understand when you're saying personal. First of all, how many of you here feel that you are a brand? Okay, good or bad or weak or strong. The concept of I am a brand, who agrees with it and who doesn't agree with it? Good. It's a healthy number. It's a healthy number. I think everybody understands the need to create a unique identity. What is brand? A brand is what? An identity, पहचान है. एक unique पहचान about myself, which will say that I am the brand, right? But it doesn't happen in isolation. When you say identity, it is always a relative concept. What is it relative to? Tell me. What is a brand's identity or your identity relative to? It is relative to something, right? Sorry? It is the value you create, yes. That is the pure brand value. But when I say you are unique, that you are one among others. You're one among many. So you are important, and what else is important? The others are important, correct? Very good. So I think the first experience that I got is that many of these brands first look at who they are competing with, right? And you have to understand this, and it will be a little uneasy for you to digest this. But if you, many of you who had siblings at home, you competed with your sibling for attention, right? If he started crying louder than you, then your mom would go to him. Or if she started screaming more than you, then your dad would go to her. So a brand is always relative to the others next to you. And that's what most brands do, that I am a Samsung, so I am not an iPhone. So there is always a focus on not just me, I also need to look at how I stand vis-a-vis others. Right? You can't always say, मैं ऐसा हूँ, मैंने ये कर लिया है, I've got this degree. But you also have to look at everyone else in the market. You're just one among many. You're just one among the Gen Z population today is what about, in India, it's about 470 or 520 million people, right? So you're one among many. So that's a understanding of others is the first most important pillar in starting to look at yourself as a brand. Because only when you look at it in a relative context, you say, here is how the others are, and here is how I am, and here is how I am different. And everybody, हमारी पूरी जिंदगी निकल जाती है. The whole, we spend our entire lifetimes in a quest of wanting to create that differentiation about ourselves, right? You see a lot of middle-aged and older people who say that you know what, I'm not like other older people, I still want to work. I still can work very hard. I can work as hard as a younger person. What is he doing? He's comparing himself to something else and saying, I'm better. You know, you look at a mom whose children have gone away to college, or she suddenly feels alone, and she'll say, hey, no, you know what, I still am worth, you know, something. I can still cook, and I can still do the best dishes. Everyone's trying to create their relative worth and tell people that I fit into this world. And that's what a brand does. A brand always tries to fit into the world, saying I'm latest, I'm fastest, I'm best, I'm the cleanest, or you know, I am the healthiest. What are they trying to do? Every entity is trying to fit into this world with respect to others in that world, right? So understand this thing, that when you step out, I know right now you all have a very high view of yourself and high opinion of yourself. I still remember in my first lecture when I said, the trick is to say that I look into the mirror and say I'm not special, right? How many of you remember that? Very few of you, okay? I did that in August, September. Some of you remember it, saying, because we've been brought up to believe by our parents, by the people around us, that we are special. But the moment you step into college, you step into the real world, you say, I'm not special. True. That's when you say, I want to now be real about where I stand, and I want to now start etching my sharp edges. I want to start sharpening my, those advantages that I have, that I offer to other people, and say, this is what I am. This is the brand that you see, and this is the difference that you get when you interact with me, right? So that's the way, that is what, and those lessons are very structured in advertising. So when we were building these brands, there were models like the brand wheel or the Hofstede model, where we used to look at those models and get some very clear structures of going step by step or saying, how is a brand built? And if you actually use the same step-by-step structures to etch your own brand out, I promise you, you will gain. So one of those models is how many of you know Simon Sinek's golden circle model, the why, how, what model, right? If you don't know it, please look for it and study that. It is called the golden circle, and it just completely tells you what are the 3 most important questions that you need to answer while building a personal brand. So we've done that for other brands. We've done that for new products. And once you start doing it at a human level, you will bring that learning into your life.
All right, thanks, Hari. Simon Sinek.
Golden Circle.
The Golden Circle. That's one of the, let me call it a home assignment for you all, because I didn't see many hands going up. In fact, I didn't see any hands going up on Simon Sinek. And he's quite
He's
an
very
influencer.
popular,
He's quite an
and
influencer.
his videos are very provocative.
Yeah.
Please go to YouTube and follow him. If you're not following him and if you're not seeing his stuff, then when you go, I swear to you, if I'm sitting at the interview table across you and ask you, you don't know Simon Sinek, then I'm going to have a very poor opinion of that person. Okay, so this is a table stake. You must know. It's not even specialized, right?
Yeah, one of the classic differentiators of how you build a personal brand is probably voracious reading, or at least voracious watching all of these things which influence and shape the world. Okay, and there are a bunch of these great speakers, motivators, and thought leaders who have really the audience here. How many of you all like to blend in? Just blend in. You don't want to be noticed, right? You don't want to be noticed. You don't want anybody asking you questions. You don't want to be in the spotlight at all.
So anybody sitting in the last 2 rows are those people, right? Anybody sitting there in that corner is that person, right? Are we right? No, she's shaking her head very violently. And sorry about that.
Yeah, so my take, and I think what Hari is also saying, is that if you plan to blend in for the rest of your life, personal branding is not something that you want to work on, or you're probably not going to work on it. But on the other hand, and this brings me to my PhD thesis topic, which was need for uniqueness. We called it NFU for short.
Nice.
It's a fundamental requirement that most people have, that even when you blend in, you want to stand out. It's like an oxymoron.
Like a paradox, yeah.
It's a paradox, right? You want to blend in, but you want to stand out too, right? So I think personal branding is all about, since I'm also a marketing guy, Hari is a marketing person, what we believe is that in this crowd, in this Kumbh Mela of life,
Mahakumbh of life.
Kumbh Mela of life, we need to do something to stand out. Otherwise, there's the risk of being ignored. That's the problem, right? And we all know that nobody steps out to give you the spotlight. You have to get the spotlight. That's where personal branding, that whole domain is. All right. Okay.
I'll give you a small example, and I think we should continue this topic because, I see this tendency or this behavior among young people today, and I then quickly compare it to my life when I was your age. And please don't feel that I'm going back again into my life like a parent saying "Hamare zamane mein." I'm not saying that at all. In fact, I'm going to reveal things about my life which you will feel good hearing. You're much better than I am. But the fundamental thing is, in our days, it was very difficult to sit at home, and it was very difficult to be indoors because there's nothing indoors. So the entertainment came from outside, right? It's very easy today to survive in your own room because Zomato aa jata hai, Blinkit aa jata hai. You can probably even, today I've heard that you can even buy a car on Zepto or some shit like that. Like Swiggy or something, Instamart. Somebody's selling a car on Instamart. So everything just comes to you, right? Everything just comes to you because you have a phone in your hand, you have money in your Google Pay, which your parents, I'm sure, have given, which you'll soon run out of and I hope you do, because that's when you'll do something.
Exactly.
And then there is always busy doing something or engaged in something, and you don't really need to go out anywhere, right? This is exactly what has happened to Americans in the 70s and 80s. They said, we have everything here, why should we go out? In fact, in the entire country of the United States of America, less than half the number of people had passports. You know this? Mm-hmm. Do you know this fact? Because the people in the US used to think, हमें क्यों बाहर जाना है? हमें सब कुछ यहाँ में मिलता है. And it's exactly that behavior and that mentality is come into the today's developing economies and young people. And trust me, if you don't step out and if you don't get out of that threshold, you'll never learn anything. You'll never conquer a new world. You'll forever be inside. And that's where standing out, and there's this almost fear of standing out. I see a lot of kids keep their cameras off in Teams calls and all of that, because it's easy to keep the camera off and just participate passively. Sure. But if you had no choice, if you had to go somewhere, you will wear a tie and sit there, right, in the front. So that's the whole, and that's what creates a difference. That's when people make a decision about you saying, you are different from the rest because the majority is that and you are a brand. So everyone else is a commodity. And how do you position yourself as a brand? Thanks. Just elaborating on that.
No, absolutely. Thanks. In fact, coming to the US story that you mentioned, I remember the first time when I saw some baseball competition or, competition which was happening in the US, and they called it the World Series. And then I looked it up, and it was only the 50 states of US which was playing it, and they called it the World Series. That's when I understood that for them, their country was the world. They would not go, and I'm completely understand what he's
That's
saying.
the only part of the world where it's played.
Absolutely. So later on, it went to Japan and other countries and became very popular. But their idea was, and it's a very, क्या बोलते हैं, कुएं में मेढक वाला concept.
Very myopic
Very
concept.
myopic. And I think all of us youngsters, I don't know, do a self-introspection. Do you feel that you are stepping out enough? Networking, if not, probably do that. It's absolutely essential, right? Networking and getting people that can really help you in your life journey. It's very important. And do that now, first year. That's the time. Hari, another very important question. What is the role of passion and energy in success in life? Other than, technical knowledge.
I would say technical knowledge and substance can be 50%. But your passion and energy can make up for that in a very, very big way. Because what people look for at work is initiative.
Absolutely.
Is your hunger to go ahead. So if I have a person who's 100% hungry and 50% in knowledge, I'll go for him. Because he'll get the thing done. Because it's very important to understand that execution of any idea is the most important thing. It's not just having the idea. You can say that, oh, you know what, I've got 10 degrees and I've got this huge knowledge base in my head and I know everything. But, I just don't feel motivated enough to step out and take that action. Then you are actually, that knowledge is of no use. But even if you had half that knowledge and twice the amount of passion, at least it's getting somewhere, right? It's right. Potential energy getting into kinetic energy. So, that's how the whole thing works. So I would never undermine, I would undermine the role of knowledge, and but not undermine the role of passion and energy. Energy always. And how many of you here like Shah Rukh Khan? I'm sure a lot of hands will go up. Not many. How many of you like Virat Kohli? Right? He's the real icon, right? What do you like about him? His energy. His energy, right? So I'm saying whether he wins or whether he loses, whether he goes out for a duck, you cannot. It's that sheer. You can see the aura of that energy, and that is what attracts anyone. For the first, if someone doesn't know you, doesn't have your CV, and looks at you for the first time, your energy is visible in the way you dress, in the way you approach somebody, in the energy, in the aura you carry. Trust me, it is visible to most people who have seen that all their lives. So to answer your question, that trumps everything else, according to me. Yeah, not just in a marketing industry, in any industry. Any industry.
Yeah. The good thing about energy and passion is that it is contagious.
You spread it from one person to another.
When you meet a person with energy and with passion, it doesn't matter. Like Hari said, 50% knowledge, doesn't matter. I'll put the money on him or her, right? With the energy and the enthusiasm to go chase things. Be a go-getter, basically, what I'm trying to say, right? So, that's an important thing that I wanted answered by somebody in industry, because now I don't consider myself an industry person, although I was there for 20 years, because that was a long time ago. I wanted somebody who's in the industry now dealing with people, young people like you all, to say that passion and energy trump knowledge almost every day in the workplace.
Every day, yes.
Every day.